Come on, are you going? Oh, okay, yes, all three are going. YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. How is everyone today? How you doing, Chris?
Tired.
Yeah, I know that feeling. We're supposed to have fun with facts on. Hopefully you can make it.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, I hope he shows up because he has a really bad habit of saying it's like, oh yeah, that day works perfect for me. I'll show up, and then he doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Fight a
Do I
fight a
need to
nickel
send
every
out more reminders or?
maybe. I was about to quote Rodney Dangerfield. Hell, one time my wife called me and said, "Hey, come home. You should come home from work early, big boy. There's nobody home." So I did, and there was nobody home. Mm. Yeah, poor
Yeah,
Rodney. He never.
our analyst told us that we'd be much better off if we had sex every night. So we do. The problem is we never see each other.
Yep. Or that one where he's like, me and my wife figured out a way how to cut down on our smoking. We only smoke when we have sex. Only.
You cut out.
I was
All
about
right,
to
Chris
say he
cut
also told.
out. Hello,
Oh, I'm.
Caleb, and we got the voluntarian. Ooh, I'm a scary leftist. I have a phone. I'm recording and exercising my constitutional rights. Oh, how dare you?
I'm. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah. I was about to say, I was also about to tell that Rodney Dangerfield joke where he's like, me and my wife figured out how to control our smoking habits. We only smoke when we have sex. Only problem is, I still haven't finished my first pack, and she's down to 2 packs a day. Did you cut off again?
Yeah, I'm here.
Mm, mm, mm. Also, did you see that really cringy video I posted? I mean, granted, you don't necessarily have to debunk it, but I just figured I put it in there. That whole why did people vote what's against their best interests and all that.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
haven't
she's
seen it,
just
but I can pretty much guess it's going to be one-sided.
oh yeah, it's
Like
just
all the Trump people voted against their best interest, unlike the Democrats who totally did.
yeah,
Delusional stuff like that.
yeah. I actually was telling this to a friend of mine. Kamala Harris. The Democrats lost the 2024 election. The exact same reason why the Republicans lost the 2008 election, because they had the perfect opportunity. There were people who were fed up, who were fed up with the current administration and want someone new, and they picked the worst candidate for the job.
Yep.
Yeah. Because seriously, and it was literally like the 2008 election. A lot of people were sick of Obama. They were calling him out for his hypocrisy and all that, and they were ready for someone new. And there were tons of candidates, that stood a chance. And who did the Republicans pick? Mitt Romney.
That's why we got Governor Josh Stein, because the Republicans could have sailed into the gubernatorial office if only they hadn't nominated someone who's a completely horrible human being.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing in Pennsylvania. We didn't have to have that one guy who's very unpopular in Pennsylvania. But why? Because they picked that quack, to be their representative. That guy who wasn't he like from the doctors or something?
Oh no, you're talking about Dr. Oz.
Yeah, Dr. Oz. Yeah, they picked Dr. Oz for their governor candidate. And basically they handed it over to what's the guy's name? He looks like Thanos.
That was Fetterman, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fetterman. Yeah.
And oddly enough, he seems to be doing better. He's a much better candidate now than he was back then.
Yeah.
I absolutely support ranked choice voting. Think it's the only way you can break the two-party stranglehold. Yeah, which is why they won't do it. But a friend of mine and I, shout out Ray Umager. I don't know if he watches these or not, but we were looking at the Constitution of North Carolina and at the law. The Constitution says that absolutely all elections shall be by ballot. You read the law, and the law defines a ballot as where you vote for or against a candidate or referendum. not where you vote for a candidate or for or against a referendum, for or against a candidate or a referendum. So that should mean constitutionally that that all of the candidates should have a for and against instead of just voting for and select one. Just vote for, vote against. And the against would like subtract one vote from their total. I think that'd be hilarious.
And of course, some people voted. The people in New York voted for Mandomni, and Mandomni's now starting to realize, wait a minute, none of this is gonna work.
I totally didn't realize that was that one guy I debunked in that housing video.
Yeah.
Someone else pointed it out to me.
Yeah, they voted him in office, and he says, "Oh yeah." And like the funniest thing ever is that he says he wants to get rid of Walmart and all the corporations, or replace them with government's grocery stores. And like there's a lot of people saying, like even socialists are saying, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he clearly never talked to someone who used to live in the Soviet Union
or Venezuela.
Yeah.
Where is he from?
He's American. I think he's American. He's got like I think his parents are from the Middle East or something. I can't remember where though. Yeah.
Well, in other news, measles is officially in North Carolina now.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
In the podcast I was talking about it being in South Carolina, it was in Spartanburg County. It's hopped the border into Polk County. And those are the ones with the lowest vaccination rate. They both have like around an 89% vaccination rate.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look in places with a 95% vaccination rate, they'll get like a couple of cases and then it'll stop.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the anti-vax people are going to say, well, that's only because we've been depending on vaccines. We didn't get them when we were younger, so now it's back and more severe. It's like, no.
No, it's the same strain.
Yeah, when is that myth gonna die once and for all? The myth that chickenpox, measles, and all that, it's much better to catch it when you're younger because it'll kill you when you're older.
It'll kill you. What was it? Was it measles or mumps? There was that kid in Israel that I covered who's going to have to grow up paraplegic now because he had to have all 4 limbs chopped off to save his life because his parents didn't get him vaccinated.
Yep.
The MMR vaccine will not give you autism, but measles might well give you permanent brain damage.
Yeah, I remember reading that. Yeah, so it kind of defeats the point. Yeah, it's like my kid won't have autism because I didn't get him vaccinated. Yeah, but thanks to his measles fever, he's going to have permanent brain damage now. Kind of defeated the purpose. And a
permanently compromised immune system.
Yep. Yeah.
It's also funny where they talk about, our mystery all natural herbal tonics thing. They stimulate the immune system. What do they complain about in vaccines? The antigens.
Exactly.
What do antigens do? Stimulate the immune system.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because that's the whole point too. Because some of those old-fashioned moms are like, but you gotta get it while you're a kid because then it won't be as severe and then you'll develop immunity and all that. It's like, well, what do you think a vaccine is? They think it's like some chemical that mutates your DNA and all that. It's like, no, it's just a weakened variant of the illness you're trying to vaccinate against.
Let's see. His parents are from India. He was born in Uganda and moved to America when he was in his 20s. Also, it reminds me of the ultra-fundamentalist Christian who genuinely says, I would rather my child be dead than gay. Yeah. Autism is not a disease. It's just a different way of making a human.
Yep. Yeah, I think one of your videos did that where some scientists finally discovered, probably one of the, maybe not the root cause, but one of the causes of autism is just, because of how our brains are,
Well, it's a consequence of us being as intelligent as we were. And so you can have these really tight, stable neural pathways, which in most other animals are good, but it limits your intelligence. Or you can have these nice flexible pathways. If they're too flexible, then your brain doesn't work right. But if they're flexible enough without being too flexible, you get this hyper intelligence that we have. And autism is kind of on the edge of that. But I mean, when you combine it with other research that shows that autism, having 1 or 2% of your population being autistic, would have been of immense benefit to hunter-gatherer tribes.
Yeah, as a guy with autism myself, I will admit, it's got some issues, but it also has its perks too,
Well, I mean, you don't want any more than that because the rest of the tribe is going to have to help them and help compensate for them. But, they can have a very valuable role to play.
Yeah. Most importantly, the field of intellectualism, because autistic people are the first people, whenever time they say you got to do this, they're the first people to go, why? I know it's annoying.
They're also hyper focused, and they usually have a higher pain threshold, and get them on the hunt. They're a little more damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass to hunter gatherers.
Going back to what I said though about asking why, I know it's annoying, as an adult, when your kids are constantly going, why is this, why is that? But you know what? When you really think about it, it's important to ask why every now and then.
Yep. Kids can be annoying because they just take it too far, but
yeah, they take it too far. Yeah, they're like, you explain how gravity. Like if they ask Dad, why do we fall why do we fall to the ground when we jump and all that? Well, because of gravity. You explain how gravity works. Well, why do objects have gravity? Why does gravity exist? Why do two objects pull on each other? Yeah.
Yep. You got to learn how to terminate that discussion without just shutting them off.
Yeah,
you got to say, well, that's something that takes a lot of study, and when you're older, you'll learn more about how science works.
Yep.
Because it's not just a simple why, question, and answer. People had to work for a long time to figure it out.
Yeah.
When I was in sixth grade, I had an autistic friend who didn't want to do PE. The teachers didn't know how to get him active. So I turned it into a game of Doctor Who. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I like that one episode of John Stossel and all that, when he was reviewing that one charter school and all that, and so many people are saying, we're criticizing that one charter school, saying, oh, but you get well-behaved kids, public schools have to deal with, troubled kids and all that, and the guy Ben Chavis is like, our school is located in the middle of Oakland, one of the crime capitals of California. These students come from some pretty tough backgrounds, and yet they excel most kids in public school.
Well, and also charter schools have to take them, and they're accepted by lottery. They don't pick and choose. It's just done by lottery.
Yep. And going back to what I said, another thing too, and I have heard this from actual teachers, yes, I understand there's an element, to teaching that can be frustrating, but at the same time, it is well established, unless the child has some very, very severe, antisocial behavior, most children are teachable. You just got to figure out what to motivate them with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that other one Stossel did where there were the kids in that one school that attended first period, and then they left, and the interviewer was asking why they left, and they were like, well, we like the first period teacher. They're really good at teaching, but the rest of them are kind of losers, so we're just going to take off. And Stossel was like, wait a minute. They took the effort to get up in the morning and do everything. That's not what you would do if you were just lazy.
It wasn't Stossel. It was It was that one lady who was the former superintendent of the school. I forgot her name, but yeah, she did that. Yeah, she implemented some reforms where she got rid of bad teachers and all that. And she said the inspiration for it came from that story. Yeah, she saw a fully crowded classroom, being taught by this one old man, and and she asked a student, and she's like, what do you think of this class? And it says, oh, we like this. Oh, we like this guy. He's really awesome. He makes, he's very helpful. We love his class. And then later she saw him leaving, and she's like, hey, why are you ditching school? And she's like, well, our first class teacher was awesome, but the other teachers are terrible, so we're bailing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Stossel covered it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that. Yeah, it's sad what happened to her though, because even though DC school districts some were improved, naturally the blob, as Stossel called it, got mad. They complained, and after the mayor who appointed her was repealed, he basically told her, yeah, you should probably just resign, because if you don't, you're gonna get fired.
Do you think Trump will try to militarily conquer Greenland? Nah, chest beating. He's good at the chest beating.
Yeah. It didn't happen. Basically, if I recall correctly, they're actually kind of negotiating it with and all that.
Well, he
I
was
will say
talking
this.
about buying it from Denmark, which how is it a part of Denmark anyway? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's part of it, and it's pretty funny because someone actually went on the ground. It went on the ground in Denmark, and like they interviewed not Denmark, Greenland, and they interviewed actual Greenlanders, and the general consensus is that while yes, they do oppose becoming a part of the United States, they also don't want to be a part of Denmark anymore either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greenland is a
And to be fair,
self-governing territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. Why does
yeah.
that sound all sorts of contradictory?
Mm. Yeah, basically Greenland is kind of like the Canada of Denmark. Like how Canada is technically its own independent nation, but it still acknowledges the British royal family as its supreme government.
Well, no, because it doesn't have like its own seat at the UN or anything.
Mm. Hmm. And to be fair, and I said this to people to play the devil's advocate here. Even though I disagreed with Trump's actions towards Greenland, I also think Denmark was kind of stupid for what they did. Like because they acted like it's like, oh, America's going to be invaded. When, from what I understand, and I've seen interviews with former businessmen that have done work with Donald Trump, they say the thing you got to do with Trump, if he's offering a deal that you don't want, you got to bullshit him. You can't fight him and be like, you can't do that, Trump. You just gotta bullshit him.
Yep. Art of the deal.
Yep. Like one thing, like I've heard one person say one thing Denmark could have done instead is that when he's like we're gonna get Greenland no matter what, and is that Denmark should have just said, you kind of already own it, because the that U.S. naval base you have there's more troops there than there are Danish troops there, so you kind of already have it. So what are you ranting about?
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. That's why I laughed at the Mexican and Canadian prime ministers too, when they said, well Trump's going to increase tariffs on us, well we're going to increase tariffs on the United States, when the actual appropriate response should have been, it's like, okay, you do realize it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt us though, right?
They don't understand that though.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They either don't understand it or they do understand it, but that's not the point. It's a matter of pride. Politicians are some of the biggest egotists out there, and it doesn't matter if it's the wrong decision. Their ego got bruised, and they got to do something about it.
Yeah. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, come on. There have to be stuff going on in the world. I'm surprised the measles thing isn't getting more coverage.
Yep.
Oh, they're threatening another government shutdown. If it were
Yeah, which
actually a government shutdown, I'd be all for it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I don't. It's just.
A man allegedly tried to break Luigi Mangione out of jail by impersonating an FBI agent.
Mm, mm. I still can't believe people are worshiping that guy.
Yeah.
It's like yes, people, I get it. The healthcare in the United States sucks ass, but killing a CEO isn't going to fix anything, and if anything, it's going to make things 10 times worse because everyone knows when the CEO of a company, when something happens to them, that can cause stocks and all that to go down. All you're doing is compromising the company and making it so more people are going to lose their health insurance coverage. That's the thing that people don't seem to think about. They're like, it's like, yeah, we stuck it to the big, medicine, big farmer insurance, and now they're out of business. Yep, and now you've just caused hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people to lose their health insurance. I hope you're happy.
Yep.
I think it's just crab mentality. It's like, I don't have affordable healthcare, and if I can't get affordable healthcare, then no one can.
All right, I have a random question for Americans. Are you hearing anything about the Alberta independence referendum? New one on me. I live in
Oh
Alberta and
yeah,
there's no
they're.
support for that.
Hmm. Oh really? Oh yeah, separate. Yeah, the separatism. Yeah, I've heard about that. I doubt it's going to happen anytime soon. I have a couple of Canadian friends, and they've said that while they don't actively support it, it would be also be one of those things where they wouldn't care either because it's like.
Well, that's kind of what it was in the American Revolution. It was basically a third of the people wanted it, a third of the people didn't want it, and the other third didn't care one way or the other. So
Yeah.
30%, yeah, that's about right, depending on how many people don't care.
Yep. Yep. We're screwed no matter who's in charge. Also, I don't know. Also, speaking of the American Revolution, Shane, I don't know why, but there seems to be a new trend with some documentary makers nowadays, where they try to point out that actually, the American Revolution was bad and the British Empire actually had a point.
How's that?
Well, like they're trying to say it's like, well, the American Revolution was actually caused because of expansion, because of American expansionism and patriotism, not they wanted freedom and all that. Like there was that one controversial documentary that came out of there where it seemed like the first 30 minutes all they talked about were slaves and Native Americans and all that. When like yeah, that was an issue, but that wasn't the cause of the American Revolution.
No, I mean, why would it have been? I mean, Europe was, Britain was, active in the slave trade at that time.
Yeah.
In
That's
fact,
why
if
that's why
anything,
I
going
find
independent kind of upheaved that a little bit
yeah.
because that
Yeah,
made
and
it
that's another
harder to trade with the British end of things.
and that's another irony too is that like so many people say it's like all these blacks and natives joined the British side because they felt the British would help them. It's like yeah, I think those people weren't very smart though, because if they actually knew what was going to happen, the British wouldn't treat them any better.
Britain was like responsible for like 90% of the stuff that was happening to the natives. They were just false flagging it to make it look like it was the colonists.
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean,
That's one of
I mean the whole thing of
the grievances in the Declaration of Independence.
yeah. Another thing that those documentaries also seem to forget too is that there were native tribes that joined on the revolution that joined the revolution.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's too many people who just paint Native Americans with a big brush, and
Oh
that
yeah.
would be like it would be like saying like every single European country was exactly the same and did exactly the same thing, and
Oh yeah.
there was no
Exactly. Yeah.
difference because they were all
Yeah.
their separate nations.
Oh yeah. And, to be fair, to play the devil's advocate here, they broke their fair share of treaties too, and they were known to commit acts of genocide and terror on white settlers too. They weren't 100% innocent in all this. It's nothing compared to what the federal government did to them, obviously, but this idea that they were sweet, innocent, noble babies until the evil white man got to them—that's a myth.
Yeah, total myth.
Yep, they were humans just like you and me, and like humans, they had the same vices and flaws as humans as
In
us.
fact, the whole thing about like free market property rights and things like that, a lot of that owes as much to some of those native tribes as it does to John
Yep.
Locke.
Yep.
Check this out. Secretary Kennedy appoints new interagency autism coordinating committee to advance fight against autism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the fight against autism. I mean, if it were, fight against black people, that would be horrible.
Yep.
So the fight against autism, geez.
Yeah, fight against autism. Yep. Or better yet, like fight against homosexuality.
Yeah.
Because principally it's kind of the same thing. It's just Because principally it's kind of the same. Yeah.
We're getting a weird echo from your end.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. That's why I know this might be controversial. This might be controversial to say, but one thing I really hate when I see the LGBT activists when they talk about gay culture, it's like each individual gay person is their own individual,
It's that collectivist mentality, gay culture, black community, things like that.
Yeah, it's like no, being gay isn't a religion, a nationality, or a language or anything. It's literally just how your brain's wired,
Yeah.
Yeah, saying gay
RFK
people have
is saying President Trump directed us to bring autism research into the 21st century. We are doing that by appointing the most qualified experts. I'll believe that when I see it. Decades of experience studying, researching, and treating autism. Pursue rigorous science and deliver the answers Americans deserve. He's not even caught up with everything science already knows.
Though to play the devil's advocate again, RFK Jr. never would have been appointed as Minister of Health if Fauci didn't behave the way he did during the Biden administration and COVID.
Well, that's part of it, and also RFK was a big voting bloc that came along with him.
I still can't believe there's people who defend Dr. Fauci, though.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
They're both terrible. If you think one's good and the other's bad, you're part of the problem. Trump granted Fauci that authority in the first place. Yes, he did. He absolutely did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's another stupid thing I hate, too, is like people say it's like, oh, COVID-19 was so horrible because Trump ignored it. It's like, no, he didn't ignore it. He literally implemented what the health experts told him to do, and when that failed, they gaslit it to make it say, oh, it was you didn't do it soon enough.
I'm looking down his list of names, and I don't see a single neuroscientist. We got psychiatrists, integrative medicine and board certified pediatrician, president of One Autism Research Foundation.
Yeah. So, to be fair, even if there were neuroscientists in there, I don't think they would be able to do any better,
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean...
But at least hire people who know what they're talking about with this sort of thing.
Yep, who joined?
Hey, is that Executioner?
Oh, hey, Executioner, he hasn't... You there? Oh, he's muted.
I just see M. That's all I see of his name.
Oh. On my end, it's Memo Chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Executioner, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, going back to what I said, though, even if there were neuroscientists on there, I don't think they do any better, because the thing people seem to forget about, and this is a bad issue too, is like people say it's like, oh, the government can do good things if the right people were in charge, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, a perfectly good example we bring up is look at East Germany. When East Germany tried to make a perfect car that the average people could do, they got the best scientists they could get a hold of, and they got their best thinkers and all that together, and the end product was the Trabant.
Well, and a lot of these people that they only say, "Oh, well, it's a mother of a child with autism, father of a child with autism." These people aren't any more qualified than I am.
Yeah, that's another thing I hate too. Is when I hate too with like medical things is when it's like, well, I'm the parent of this child. I know them. It's like, well,
So you mentioned our loose neural connections,
You only
making
know
autism
your
a
kid if
possibility. If autism is increasing, could our brains be becoming more loose? It's not increasing. First of all, it's stable. And the reason why it happened is genetic changes that happened over millions of years in a series of genetic bottlenecks, the last of which was something like 900,000 years ago. So, no.
no, it has to be the aspartame.
You're sounding very distant there, like you're way far away from the mic.
Oh god, it must be. Oh my lord, these Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah,
I have. That's the issue. Do I sound better?
Yeah.
That sounds better.
Speaking of aspartame and sweet things, I actually read a funny libertarian comment that said, "Hey, you know what? I know how we can make America a much more healthy society diet wise without spending a dime and forcing all this health food down our throats. And it's actually very simple: repeal the sugar subsidies."
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, here's another thing. Let's get rid
That
of
was
this
something I
idea
read with
that something.
Rothbard. He wrote the
Sorry, you were saying?
book, The Progressive Era. They go into during Theodore Roosevelt's administration, like early 1900s. They go into how the food industries, there was like sugar beets and all other sorts of boondoggles, but they did a lot of sugar subsidies and stuff like that. And it was really just a way to basically give them a check, you know.
But yeah, the reason why American food has a reputation for being unhealthy is because we put too much sugar in it, and the reason why many food companies put sugar in the food even though it's not always necessary is because it's a cheap flavoring because it's subsidized.
Well, it's actually the high fructose corn syrup, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if we just got rid of the sugar and corn subsidies, a lot of a lot of food companies, would probably say, you know what, we're not going to put sugar in this product of the high fructose corn syrup because it's too expensive. We're going to put something else that might be healthier. Though to
And
be
as
fair,
I
one
was
thing
going to say, let's get rid of this idea that something is bad because it causes cancer in mice.
Yep.
That's not how it works.
Well,
Oh yeah,
well,
yeah,
obviously, the small mammal getting cancer, affecting a more complex organism like a human, it obviously must affect us that way.
yeah.
Even though we
By
have
the way,
completely different metabolic pathways.
mm, oh, and it's one way to trigger a lot of Europeans though is that they always talk about how unhealthy American food is. Like, there's been studies and they found out that Europeans aren't really any better.
No, they're not as obese because
Wasn't
they
there a
don't have
whole?
as much money for food, is the truth of it.
Yeah, well,
Didn't they kill 90,000 cattle because they suspected Kracov's Yakov disease or whatever?
I thought it was hoof and mouth.
Huh.
Mad cow.
It was
Mad
in the
cow was a
90s, I
big thing
think.
for a while, but I think hoof and mouth was a bigger thing that they killed a lot more cattle for.
Well, I believe if you were in Europe in the 1990s and 80s, if you mention it if you go to give blood or whatever to donate it, they will outright refuse it. It's a old rule or something.
these anti-vaccine movements in general help pharmaceutical companies because whenever there's a moment of actual corruption or abuse or neglect, big pharma companies can laugh it off, saying, oh, these anti-factor crazy conspiracy and genuinely getting away with several terrible things because people have cried wolf so many times. Yeah, maybe. The American diet is unhealthy, so we need to outlaw vaccines and banish autistic people. Yeah, basically.
So we start with RFK.
That's another thing. That's another thing too. People also need to that I do wish some of those people would understand. It's like, yes, eating healthy is good for you, but it's not a cure-all.
I mean, it helps.
Yeah, it helps, but it's not a cure-all. And
it's not going to help you survive.
It depends
measles.
your physical level
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like if you're exercising and
Hmm.
it's sometimes genetics, but I think people use the genetics as kind of a crutch sometimes, like the
Well,
fat positivity movement.
the genetics, I will say this, one thing that the genetics does definitely play a role in is how your body's going to look, because unfortunately there are some people out there that think that if I just diet and exercise properly, not only will I be thin, I'll also be beautiful. It's like, no, the sad reality is that there are features of the human body that contribute to beauty, and that's all genetics. That's your bone structure, and all that,
Oh,
yeah.
there are some people who, if you know them for a while, and they're not like obese, but they're on the scale, and then you see them if they've lost like I don't know a ton of weight, they look like 40 pounds soaking wet. I believe my doctor said to me that the healthy weight to aim for is like 120 or 130. I don't know.
It depends on a number of factors.
Yeah.
It's really your percent body fat that matters.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Well,
like a lot of people,
sorry.
as part of their diet, they'll work out and, lift weights or whatever. Then they'll say, well, I'm not losing weight. Well, it's like, no, but you're replacing fat with muscle mass, which is
My
better for
name
you.
is Jesse Ventura, and according to the BMI, I am overweight.
Yeah. BMI is bullshit. I cannot believe just to this day how many doctors and health companies and insurance companies are basing everything off of BMI.
I can get it if they just want like okay, they don't factor in muscle mass, but like if they just wanted like a number they could throw out there, okay, but like to rely on that it can lead to a lot of false conclusions.
Yeah. It's just because one Belgian in the 1800s did a statistical overview of what Belgians were like in terms of height and weight. And that's all he did. None of it was about how healthy they were. It was just like if you were in Belgium in the early 19th century and you were this tall, you were likely to be this weight. That's all it was.
Sorry.
I was about to say, didn't the government initially propose it not as a means to determine health, but to distribute food. The idea is that, well, if you're this height and this amount of weight, you're allowed to have this amount of rations, like for times of war, whereas and all that.
I mean, maybe if you're going to use it as like an indication that someone is undernourished.
Well, there was this thing like there was I don't know I was reading into a little bit of Adam Smith and stuff like that, but like that I don't know if it's just Calvinism or something like that, but they had like a thing where they were suggesting, well, if the average worker eats this much like potatoes or something like that, I forgot, it was like kind of like an obsession about like productivity or something like that, and it like for some reason I think like Adam Smith was obsessed with like frugality or something. I can't remember.
kind of sounds like those really bad managers, that are saying, well, if they're doing this, you're clearly slacking off because doing this means you're not doing your job.
Well, obviously, you can eat like a bowl of rice, and
Yeah.
that's good. You can totally get your caloric intake from that.
Yeah, but it's about more than just calories. Let's see, a lot of people have very unrealistic expectations. If they go to the gym for 1 week, they'll lose, I don't know, 20 pounds. They get motivated when they don't see that. Yeah, the usual advice is when you start a diet, you'll lose like 3 to 5 pounds the first week, and then maybe 1 to 3 pounds for each week after. You don't lose it that fast, and you don't want to lose it that fast. It's bad to lose
Yep.
it that fast.
Oh, wasn't there that show, My 600 Pound Life, or something like
Yeah,
that?
but to play the devil's advocate here, those people are special cases. Like when you're like
Yeah,
800 pounds and you look like Jabba the Hutt, you need to lose weight that quickly. But that's the thing, that so many people who criticize that show ignore. It's not like they're not like people like me who are overweight, but we just have like a really bad gut and a fatty liver. These are people that are super morbidly obese, and like
yes,
they can barely breathe because the fat's literally crushing their
yeah.
lungs. Those are
Yeah.
Even
different. That's
already then, there's a lot of damage that can result from being overweight for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
It's a good motivation to lose it, but there can be a lot of damage, like coronary artery disease and
Oh yeah. Yeah,
stuff like that isn't
that's like
easily reversed.
that's the reason why some people who have been on my 600-pound life, even when they do follow through the program and lose the weight, they still end up dying, because the sad reality is that, like when you're like 800 pounds for like, several years, and you spend most of your life laying in a bed, it damages your body, and sometimes it's irreversible.
Yeah, my half brother, he passed away like 2 years ago. He was not overweight by any means, but smoking and
Yep.
diabetes can definitely cause that issue. And uh, yeah, he died of like coronary artery disease or something.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't really know how representative that is. I know that like my own like individual experience isn't scientific or anything, but I'm just looking around the area I am, when I go places, go to Walmart or whatever. Yeah, there are people who are overweight, but I don't see like the morbidly obese, like 300 or 400 pound people all over the
Yeah,
place,
Oh yeah.
those are case studies. Like
That's
they're
that's another
more.
that's another thing I hate too, with the whole Europe versus America thing, where it's like, you see, look at these like super fat plump Americans and look at these thin Europeans. It's like, that's easily done. You're just cherry picking.
Yeah.
And they tend to ignore regions like Mexico, Saudi Arabia, China, and areas that have developed very fast. And though their standard is not high like America or Europe, they're running into issues with obesity that tend to get ignored by Europe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's kind of similar to when people like to do all those comparisons too. Like I've even seen some people like do it with Japan. It's like, look at Japan. They eat completely different food. Compared to America. And look at them; they're slim and healthy. Yeah, but the Chinese diet has some similarities, because the Chinese eat a lot of rice and seafood too, and they're experiencing an obesity problem, to the point where
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Chinese government, if I
Chinese and Japanese have traditionally been slim and short because they haven't had much food to eat. But you have these, tiny little Chinese people. A Chinese couple comes to America, have a kid, raise the kid in America, and the kid's 6 feet tall.
Yep.
So it's not genetics; it's like early childhood nutrition, things like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, if I recall correctly, that's the reason why the average
Yeah,
American is taller and has more muscle mass compared to the average Japanese. It's because Americans, have a diet that has more protein and dairy in it compared to Japan.
like I'm not advocating it or
You're
anything like that,
breaking
but
up there.
people talk about kind of like the I up
Yeah, you're definitely breaking up there. We can't hear
like
you.
the uh one moment.
The entire world is becoming more obese, not just the West, and certainly not just America. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that
They
I
love
think
to-
our biggest dietary problem in America is we aren't getting as much protein as we need, and that's very overlooked. And that's something that's become a lot worse since COVID and the post-COVID inflation.
yeah.
They're just loading up more and more food with carbs, and just try getting the protein in your diet.
Yep.
I was looking through
I mean, did
the store one day, and the thing I found that had the best, when you're not just looking at protein but also comparing it to the amount of fat and carbs, the food that really came out ahead was bacon. It's like, I need bacon to get my protein.
it's like that one South Park episode where they're trying to
I
figure.
was in my
It's kind of like that one South Park episode where they're trying to figure out, why people are so unhealthy, even though we're following the food pyramid, and it's like, holy crap, it's upside down.
Yep.
Yeah. There's one major plot hole with that episode, though.
am I coming in better?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Is
sounding
that
better
it said that episode says if you eat gluten, your penis is going to explode and fly off. How come that only happened after that one particular incident? When people have been when it's well established in South Park, people have been eating gluten before. My own funny fanfic is that the whole thing
Consume the product.
Yeah. My whole theory with that whole episode, and this is silly, but honestly, it does make sense within the South Park context. I think it's just mass hysteria.
I think you're just not supposed to take South Park that seriously.
I know, but that's kind of the joke in a way.
The thing I was saying before I broke up was, I'm not advocating WIC or anything like that, but when people talk about, well, if you look at the IQ among different groups of people, like races and stuff like that, well, a lot of early development and stuff like that is a lot of it is nutrition, and some groups don't necessarily have, like, because of these government programs, like making food more expensive and stuff like that, it really can have an effect on a child's development. And I see a lot of people going, oh, well, if you look at the IQ among blah, 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 they just seem to ignore, like, a vital part of, okay, why that might be. And they just skip to, oh, it must be because of this, I don't know, Nick Fuentes-esque, like, racist reason or something.
I don't know, these cold temperatures, are they just an America thing, or are they gonna affecting Europe too? Because I'm kind of wondering how Germany's gonna make it through. If they have another cold winter like they did a couple of years ago.
So long as they keep burning the trees, that'll save the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll make more room for solar
The
panels.
Lorax lied to me. I'm surprised nobody brings that up anymore. When people bring that up, it's like the problem with the Wunsler wasn't that he didn't have a green environmental conscience, is that he didn't slow down and plant more trees so he could make more profit. He just cut everything down all at once.
Which is the tragedy of commons that happens with
Yeah.
either government property or property that's unowned. But when you have, like, paper companies and lumber companies and things like that, when it's their own forest, they actually do a much better job of managing it than the government does the national forests, and they're constantly planting new trees to replace the old. They don't cut down the old growth trees because they know they need that for a healthy forest.
Yep.
It's exactly the opposite
Well, I
of what
live
you're
in
taught
Maine,
in the Lorax.
and a lot of people get angry up here in Maine when paper mills close and stuff like that. But if you look back at the history of paper mills, stuff like that, you look at the subsidies, you look at the forests, for example, that were ended up leased out to these different companies and stuff like that. But, like, all this protectionism caused it to close down. People shifted to other suppliers because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, here's one from Reuters where it's not really talking about how cold Germany is, but it says that Germany's wind levels are going to continue to be low. And this first quarter is usually the peak of wind production, and it's very subpar.
Mhm.
This underperformance came despite the largest annual increase in German wind capacity last year since 2017. So they put in a lot more windmills, and they're still generating less of their power with wind.
No base load.
Yeah.
Oh, but we gotta stop Man Bear Pig. People, I was watching a YouTube comment, and going back to South Park, they were mentioning, the South Park episode where South Park apologized to Al Gore and all that, and I said South Park never should have apologized, because here's the thing people seem to be forgetting: Al Gore's message in An Inconvenient Truth, it wasn't that Man Bear Pig was real and nobody was believing him. It was that Man Bear Pig was real. Humankind was 250% responsible, and if we didn't do something within the next decade, we'd all be dead. When actual scientists said, no, that's not true.
Yeah,
the
wasn't
climate is
San
going to
Francisco, wasn't
No,
the
we're
Bay Area
already
supposed to be
40
underwater by
feet
now or
underwater.
something?
Yeah, and when I brought that up, people kept saying, "No, he never said that. He never said San Francisco Bay was going to be." But I remember because we
Well,
watched it
he's
in high school.
He's clever about lying by telling the truth. Because he was talking about the sea levels rising, and then he showed like, oh, sea levels rise this much, and this happens to the San Francisco Bay, but he stopped just short of making that last link that's saying that, yeah, this is what's going to happen, but left everyone with that impression. He knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah, that's
And then
another
he
thing
could
too.
have deniability afterwards when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably what he would say too. He's like, oh, I never said, Man Bear Pig was going to, kill us all immediately, but he might in the future. It's like, well, you kind of phrased it in a way that said, yeah, we don't do something now, we're all gonna die.
They also have a 19% year-over-year drop in
Well, all the
hydropower
glaciers
generation
are melted
and a
by now.
40% surge in regional national gas prices. Well, they are not in a good situation. Even just a
Didn't he
3-month stretch
also,
of
I
elevated
don't know why
coal-fired output
environmentalists do this.
could trigger a measurable rise in power pollution levels and undermine ongoing efforts to clean up the country's energy sector. Yeah, so they're going to be more responsible for global warming than anyone.
Yep.
That is not a good situation. And Spain's
Well,
not in much of a
obviously,
better
the
situation.
glaciers are all melted by now.
The what now?
All the glaciers are melted by now. Al Gore said it.
Yeah, and yeah, Shane, you remember that movie, that stupid Kevin Costner movie, Waterworld?
I try not to.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because someone actually debunked that film, because you see in the film, the end of the world was caused because some sort of climate change occurred, and all the ice and the polar and Antarctica and the North Pole and everywhere else melted, and it flooded 99.9% of the Earth except for a small patch of land. Well, someone actually did a calculation, and they said, okay, if all the ice on Earth melted, there would still be plenty of land left over for the survivors of humanity.
Oh yeah, it's not even anywhere near enough water to flood the world.
Oh yeah. People seem to forget Antarctica is not
Why did-
composed of ice. Only the surface is.
Well, and the northern ice cap
Why
floats,
didn't they,
so it's
like,
not really
it-
going to raise levels that much anyway. It'll raise them by raising the temperature, but it won't be. I mean, if you have ice that's floating in a glass of water and then the ice melts, the water level doesn't change.
I think people seem to forget to realize that ice is actually mostly composed of air. If I recall correctly, it's mostly air.
Yeah,
That's
which is why it floats.
That's the reason. Yeah. That's why you can have a super big ice cube. That's like 5 by 5 inches, and when it finally melts, you only get like half. You only get like half. When it melts, you only get like a centimeter of water. Same thing with Mad Max. One of the stupidest points about Mad Max is that apparently the apocalypse caused the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean to dry up, and there are plenty of scientists that said, "Listen, I don't care what's going to happen unless like a super hot extrasolar body came by close to the Earth and dramatically raised the temperature. That's impossible."
Well, and
Like,
the
if it
air
gets
would be
hot-
so saturated it would just rain back out anyway.
Yeah.
Panic in Spain as electricity grid struggles to cope. Towns in darkness. Okay, so they are having a bad winter in Spain. Never shut down the nuke plants.
Yep. Yeah, for all the flaws it has, France didn't shut down its nuclear power plants, and we're not hearing these stories out of France.
France is bailing everyone else out. They
Oh,
even
yeah.
have a pretty good waste recycling
But I get all my
program.
nuclear information from The Simpsons.
You're breaking up again. But yeah, a lot of the
I get
fuel
all
they
my
have in France
nuclear
is
information
recycled
from The
waste.
Simpsons.
Yeah, people still go to Walmart. They have mobility scooters.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was
back
telling
when
him,
I
yeah.
was in a wheelchair, it pissed me off because people were just grabbing the scooters because they were lazy, which meant that there weren't any available for, people who really needed to get around.
Oh yeah, when I was a cart pusher at Walmart, that was a major issue. We had a lot of like really old people or people with injuries, that couldn't find, a mobility scooter, and the reason why was because the fat people were hogging them.
Yep.
Hmm.
France is so hit or miss. They gave us de Tocqueville Bastion and showed us how effective nuclear energy can be. Then they have Bonaparte. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're. They tried to copy the American Revolution, but then they put Robespierre in power.
Yep.
Hmm.
And that led to the Reign of Terror. Had to get him out. Then replace him with Napoleon.
That's why I don't get why the French Revolution is so romanticized, because it backfired so badly,
Yeah. Well, and they were killing a lot of people who would have been the best thing for him. Marie Antoinette, killing her was the worst thing they could have done.
She was on their side too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A really powerful person on their side.
Yep. Yep, but she was married to the king, so she had to go, and yeah, from what I remember reading somewhere, that apparently, while the French people were glad, that the king of France was being executed when it was Marie Antoinette turns, there was a little bit of hesitancy. Like, some of them were like saying, are we really doing this? Yeah, she was. Yeah, if I recall correctly, she was executed for one reason and one reason only. That was because even though she was married to the King of France, she was born in Austria, and the Austrians and the French, weren't on friendly terms. And the new government was afraid, oh, she's an Austrian, she'll sell us out to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We
Yeah.
have to kill her.
They even helped the American Revolution. Yeah, France was a big help. One of the few times military aid and foreign affairs worked. Well, that's because they were welcomed and even paid for it. They give the colonists resources and soldiers and let them handle the war. Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, a lot of French troops in the Revolutionary War, a lot of them pretty much acted like mercenaries, basically. We would pay France. If I recall correctly, that's what Admiral Lafayette, the French Navy was. We basically sent money to France and basically paid him for a commission. So even though he was still a French, even though it was still a French fleet, it was temporarily under American command, basically.
That was actually a huge part of the debt after the United States became a country, and they were having to print up all that money to pay off the debts. That's what they were doing. They were paying back France.
I'm doing this from my.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Shane. How you been?
I've been pretty good despite how cold it is. How you been?
Daniel found a new waifu.
Oh?
Yes, Chris knows the whole scoop.
Yeah, Amelia. Yeah, the bad guy from that propaganda game made by the British government, and it turns out she's becoming a fan. She's developed a fandom of her own now.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yep. Oh, way to backfire it. Yeah.
It's basically like, do you remember what happened with that new guy meme in 2020?
Which one?
New guy.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, saying it again isn't going to help me.
Oh, it was a webcomic on Twitter where, the leftist was set up this character called New Guy as a foil for her self-insert. But the audience almost universally sided with New Guy because they thought they liked him better and thought he actually made a valid point.
Yeah. Kind of like Archie Bunker, kind of like Archie Bunker in a way. He was written to be, a cliche, stereotypical, ultra hard conservative and all that, and Rob Reiner and the others were supposed to be the right people. Yet they were getting yet the network was getting many emails saying we love Archie Bunker and we agree with him.
Well, that's the thing. New Guy wasn't even supposed to be like a hard conservative. He was just his hot take that put him at odds with the author's self-insert was it's kind of a dick move to laugh at PewDiePie because his wife got robbed.
Okay. I'm seeing it now on Know Your Meme. A millionaire gamer bro douchebag who got robbed, most likely a reference to PewDiePie. Her co-worker, whose name tag reads New Guy, says, "Hey, how'd you like it if you were robbed?" The purple-haired character then sarcastically remarks that she and New Guy could be friends, but then says, "Hell no." The comic drew backlash from people who read the comic as the author laughing at PewDiePie's misfortune and sympathizing with New Guy. I'm trying to see if I can find the actual comic, but it kind of sounded like he's like, "Hey, yeah, have some empathy. How would you feel if you got robbed?" Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
She says, "Hey, oh, what's so funny? That millionaire gamer bro douchebag totally got robbed. Hey, how'd you like it if you were robbed?" "Oh, wow, I can tell we're going to be the kind of coworkers who become good friends." He says, "Wow, really?" And she says, "Hell no." Damn, she even looks. If you look at her, she actually looks terrible. She looks like someone who should be the bad guy.
Ironically, hold on.
Did the author have like no self-awareness here?
Apparently not. Hold on, I need to switch to my desktop.
Okay. Also,
going back
she
to what I
looks a
said-
lot like Amelia. It's weird.
Yeah.
You know, the purple hair and everything.
Yeah, going back to what I said about Archie Bunker, I think that was another issue too. Is because so many people ask, why do so many people like Archie Bunker? We were supposed to hate him. It's because you see, here's the thing. He was supposed to be a cliche, privileged white American, but when you really think about it, he isn't. He was a working class guy.
That's kind of what backfired on Parks and Recreation, because I forget the main girl's character's name, but she was supposed to be, the good-hearted leftist, and Ron Swanson was supposed to be the libertarian who doesn't care about anything. And the first season, the way it came across was that she was dumb as a fence post, and Ron Swanson was the only one who knew anything about what was going on. So they had to juggle their characters around from the second season on, make her smarter and make him more of a proper character.
Actually, I was working on a concept that brings Amelia in as a new coworker at the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never watched Parks and Recreation. The only thing I know is the classic scene of, okay, who broke it? Yep. And after they all start fighting, he goes, I broke it. It burnt my hand, so I punched it.
Oh yeah, Ron Swanson was another case of this. The trope is called Mexicans Love Speedy Gonzales. But yeah, that's how Amelia has become.
I think that was one of the things George Lopez was trying to get attention with, about Speedy Gonzales being racist somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they think he's racist, because literally the whole point is that he's running away from bad guys and he succeeds. So and that's another thing I hate about the criticism of those old Looney Tunes cartoons. When people criticize them for being racist, it's like, yes, they made, racial jokes at blacks and all that, but they were making racial jokes at white people too. Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd were stereotypes of a certain type of white class American.
Well, and also a lot of people they'll look at one of the banned cartoons. They were like, oh, look at that character, the black character. It's racist to portray black people like that. No black people are like that. And it's a parody of Fats Waller. And Fats Waller was so, over the top to begin with. It wasn't that much of an exaggeration. It was basically Fats Waller.
Yeah.
Oh, he was great. I love Fats Waller.
But yeah, it's been going for a few days. People have been making AI music videos and parodies of the game.
I did see the one Dr. Randomer Cam did. That was funny. Yeah, but post the links in one of the Discords. I want to see him.
Yeah, it's just it's basically like they created a weapon that ended up just being used against them.
Yeah.
It reminds me of this one skit from Robot Chicken, that was making fun of Star Trek, where it was making fun of Wesley Crusher, and it was making fun of the hate, and it was showing the writers saying, it's like, man, we are getting so many hate mail from Wesley Crusher. What are we supposed to do? Well, why don't we just fire the actor and get rid of his character? We can't. He's under contract. And they're like, and one guy's like, well then, why don't we just write his character and make him better and make him a better character? And another guy goes, no, wait, I got a better idea. Let's create a character so annoying and obnoxious that people will like Wesley Crusher by comparison. So they create a fictional character called Snurkle, who's super annoying, who's super annoying, and they think it's gonna work, and later
More
they see
snarkle.
they see a street sign that says more snorkel, kill Wesley.
Will Wheaton was
Apparently-
trying to get out of his contract for a couple of seasons.
Yeah. And apparently
He had
according
a
to
chance to do a film in France with Milos Forman, and so like the first episode, not the first episode of the season, but the first one they were shooting, in the shooting order was the Ensigns of Command, and so he was like, well, it looks like Wesley Crusher isn't in the episode. You know, I should be able to get up. And the producer was like, oh no, we're rewriting it. Wesley is central to this. You can't do the movie. And when they finally get it, and if you watch the episode, Wesley has a grand total of 1 line. He's in there for basically 30 seconds. And Will Wheaton was like, yeah, that was the producers going, fuck you, we own you.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently that Robot Chicken skit, according to the Robot Chicken wiki, apparently when Will Wheaton saw that skit, he sent them a letter saying that was the funniest thing I ever said, and had you guys asked, I would have gladly have voiced Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I think he was as annoyed by Wesley as anyone.
I've been
Oh, yeah.
fixated on a different Robot Chicken sketch.
I
The
mean,
one that's a Hellboy Indiana Jones
I mean,
crossover.
I was about to say, Daniel. I mean, with Will Wheaton. I mean, to be fair, I don't blame him for hating this character because a lot of people like to make fun of the actors, sometimes. But the truth of the matter is, if they're not given a good character or bad dialogue, what are they supposed to do? It's like with Hayden Christensen. Everyone likes to hate on him, but to be fair, some of the dialogue in the prequels isn't the best, and I don't even think Morgan Freeman could make some of those cringy lines work.
Yeah, but if you see Hayden Christensen and other things, he's not good in anything else either.
I think I saw one film he was in, and he was pretty good in there. But the point still stands with Will Wheaton. I mean, the biggest problem with Wesley Crusher wasn't Will Wheaton; it was the writing. And again, that was in the skit too. That one guy's like, or instead of making an annoying, obnoxious character, we could just make Wesley Crusher a better character. And they're like, get out.
Kind of reminds me of the meme where the guy says the only sensible thing and they throw him out the window.
Oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, I've seen that one meme.
Yeah, people have done so many different versions of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I remember because I saw a version with Disney, where the Disney execs are like, Disney execs are like, we're failing, our movies aren't selling. What are we supposed to do? We keep buying everything so we can get more, but nothing's working.
Put a chicken and make it gay.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't it. Then one guy said, it's like, or how about instead of buying everything and hoping something will stick, why don't we focus on making actual good quality films like the original Walt Disney did? And then they throw them out the window.
Oh yeah, the board meeting meme.
Yep, the board meeting.
That
Yep.
one.
Yep.
They are covering the government shutdown thing way too much. What are they trying to distract us from?
Oh yeah,
because that's what's going on. Something's going on. They're trying to distract us from. Because that's all I'm seeing scrolling through the news.
I'm just still reeling from the Maduro situation. For weeks, but still shocking. Okay.
They're talking about, all these things they're adding to X, like the ability to do like AI customized feeds. I just want a news feed. Give me a feed of just news stories. Why can't we have that?
You know, oddly enough, I think you and I actually had our first conversation ever on Twitter.
Did we?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't remember it, but it was before I joined the forums.
Oh yeah, back when
Maybe, but
Skype
I
was
was
a
never
thing.
all that active on Twitter.
I know we had some tweets back and forth like way early on when I first made my account.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we were still on Skype. Remember that? Remember that one?
I remember Skype. And then it was Google Hangouts.
Yep.
All right, did the chat stop or am I frozen?
I've still kept up with some of the people from the Hangouts group.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All I did was change the order of them. Tim Walz ends political career amid fraud probes. Is that the thing going on with like the daycares or whatever?
At the Leering Centers.
And now Amy Klobuchar is going to run for governor. I don't know. Just show me a good way of getting news headlines. That's all I want. Because Google News will like focus on like 3 big stories and not tell you anything else. Chris, something is coming over your audio.
What'd you say?
Sounded like
Something's
something was coming over your audio.
I don't hear anything. Might be my
I don't
chair
know.
that
I
was
was
kind of
hearing weird
squeaky.
things, and you were the one with the green circle around you.
Sometimes my mic picks up like my breath or something. I don't know why it's weird like that.
Yeah. You should be able to set it in the Discord settings to just ignore anything that's below a certain volume level.
I don't know. I'm not tech savvy. Yeah,
Have you tried setting it to Wumbo?
No. Yeah, an executioner had to leave. Apparently he's having connection issues.
Yeah, he was
I've been
cutting
having
out a lot.
them on and
It's
off.
too bad we hadn't had him on in a while.
Also, Daniel, did you hear the news? Kathleen Kennedy quit Lucasfilms.
Yeah. Too little, too late. People have been doing retrospectives about how awful she was.
And you know what's the worst thing? You know what's the worst thing too about Kathleen Kennedy is that initially it didn't seem so bad because I mean she was with George Lucas with the OG, and it's like well maybe she does know what she's doing, and then we see the new film that's like okay something's going on here.
Yeah, and if we can just get rid of Alex Kurtzman, Star Trek might have a chance of being good, but oh my god, it is so terrible.
Yeah, I was saying I was calling out the red flags before the movie even made it to theaters. So
yeah, I remember.
Well, I think the general consensus of the fandom was the biggest red flag was that they were no longer going to consider the expanded universe to be canon.
That was mine. Yep. That's why I left.
Yep. And then of course Kathleen Kennedy had to say it's like, well, we're struggling with these, to make Star Wars because we're starting up from scratch, and like everyone's pointing out, it's like it's like, lady, you had like almost 50 plus years of comics, novels, TV shows, fan projects, all sorts of stuff you could have referred to, and your solution was oh, let's scrap it and Disneyfy it. You know. And I still can't believe there's people that defend The Last Jedi by saying it's like, oh, it actually makes sense for Luke. You know, Luke becoming a loser old man. That's character that's character, development.
Fate of the Jedi handled his exile better.
Yeah, then again, those are probably
Rumble. Zen hadn't been on Rumble for like 20 minutes to start, but I never went back to check again, so hang on.
Then again, those are probably the same people that think the South Park episode Stanley's Cup is the greatest episode in the world, and when you point out how cruel, mean-spirited, and unfunny it is, they're like, well, that's the point, it's a deconstruction.
Which episode?
Stanley's Cup.
I am so sick of deconstructions.
Yep.
Oh,
AKA
God,
the episode where Stanley's team loses, the little kid dies, everyone blames Stan and thinks he's a failure because he lost, and it ends with the team that beat them celebrating their victory. Oh, and that scene also includes scenes where the Red Wings, the hockey team, they beat the living crap out of 5-year-old kids and like they're all bloodied, you know. And people are like, well, that's the funniest thing ever. That's the whole point. It's like, no, it's not. And I even pointed out, you know how they could have made that episode much more funny and still had the deconstruction. Make it where the little kids still get beaten up, but what happens is that the entire team gets disqualified because they beat up all the little kids. So the kids win by a default, and everyone celebrates. You know, because, oh, you won, and Stan goes, yeah, but we didn't win through skill. We only won because the other team got kicked out. It's like, well, it doesn't matter, son. You won. That's how you deconstruct something. That's how you properly deconstruct something.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
So Zen says the whole notion that Biden was for open borders is a lie vomited by ignoramuses who can't be bothered to do basic research. Clinton and Obama deported more people than Bush and Trump. That's true. Trump's just been more vocal about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's another thing too. It's like ICE can't just take people and separate families. It's evil and un-American. And I'm like, you guys didn't give a crap when Obama was doing it.
Yeah.
Obama had that nickname for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
That was what I called him.
Yep.
Deporter in chief.
It was the same. It was the same thing. It was the same thing with the Iraq War. You know, when it was Bush and all that. Like there were all these punk rock groups like Green Day singing about how, oh, America is such an idiot. We're going to war. America is corrupt and it's full of evil people. Then Obama took power. He expands the war. Nobody gives a crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why looking back on my youth, you know, I never liked the anti-war movement, even though I didn't necessarily agree with the war. It was basically, in hindsight, I soon realized that now it's because it was insincere. It wasn't protesting the war in Iraq. It was all about getting rid of Bush.
Yeah,
Because,
someone else
like I
from
said-
the past whose background is Hoplu, he's had a few chats, and one of you says is that franchise owners, talking about like the owners of Star Wars and everything, are not subject to the same high standards as fanfic writers. That is true.
Yep.
This is why I got way into Philip Jose Farmer.
Yeah. I mean, people like to make fun of fan fiction, but you know what? The fact that we make fun of fan fiction is the reason why when fan fiction is good, it's really good because there's that standard. You know, if you make a terrible fan fiction, about your self-insert character, overpowering everyone's gonna make fun of you. They're gonna call you stupid and an idiot, and you're not gonna make any more. But if you make something good, people are gonna praise you for it.
Yep. Well, the bad fanfic just isn't read. It just gets ignored.
Yeah.
Honestly, in mainstream media, the last few... Well, I don't know. My Immortal got read a lot.
Wasn't that Harry Potter fanfiction about that vampire that attends Hogwarts, or...
Yeah, it's really bad. Like, notoriously bad.
Maybe it's so bad it's good. That's why I got so much attention.
Yeah.
It's sure that does happen, I mean... that's part of the reason why the infamous Sonichu, became somewhat popular, is because it's a terrible, terrible comic with a terrible story, and the person who makes it is terrible. But it's a case of it's so bad that you can't help but actually get some enjoyment out of how bad it is.
Really, you had to bring up Christian, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, that's why there's a huge fan base for Manos: The Hands of Fate.
Yep. And
It's
The
just
Room.
that bad a movie.
Yep. And The Room too. That movie with Tommy Wiseau.
The Room, I think I've seen that one. Which one
Yeah.
was that?
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
of
I'd
those
say-
jogging your memory, Shane?
Some fan fictions get so popular they inspire their own fan fictions of them. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like Fallout Equestria, which is a crossover between Fallout and My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, and surprisingly, it's really good.
I mean, making fan fictions of fan fictions is basically what I've been doing for the past few years. It's called the Walt Newton universe, or it's based on the Walt Newton universe, at least.
Speaking of Fallout, I saw apparently the new season of Fallout is pissing off fans. Yeah. Macaulay
Why is
Culkin
that?
joined Caesar's Legion.
I've heard mixed things about it.
From what I understand, the only reason people are watching is Walton Goggins. Because he's
I like
just
the
good in
first
everything.
season, so I actually like the first season, so. I'm just not sure how they're going to handle House.
I mean,
Stupid.
I mean, if I recall correctly, wasn't the Fallout, doesn't it explain that that the canon ending for New Vegas is Eureka, the NCR winning?
I've heard they keep it kind of ambiguous by having everyone think they won the war.
Oh, yeah. Because, like, one thing I do know is that they did win the Battle of Hoover Dam, but the NCR got stretched thin, and now it's just a handful of settlements, now.
Well, we know they won the first
we're
battle.
only a few episodes into it, but it looks like the NCR is just like 3 people or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, after the war, Shady Sands got nuked.
Yeah.
By the way, some people have pointed out, what's the biggest plot hole in the entire Fallout franchise? Is that, see, the franchise takes place, like the first game takes place like 150 years, and the other games took place 200 years. By that point, the world should have mostly have recovered, and like 99% of the nuclear fallout should have been gone.
Oh, 200 years? The whole thing should have been a distant memory.
Yeah,
there would
exactly.
have been new cities, new skyscrapers. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue a lot of people had with when Bethesda took over, is that they basically made Fallout permanently stuck in like a retro 1950s, whereas many people have pointed out, the whole 1950s retro fusion punk, that was just the theme of the pre-war,
Well, in the series, I don't know too much about the game, but in the series, the 1950s was when the nuclear war happened.
No, the war happened in the 2070s.
Yeah, but for some reason in the world of Fallout, like the entire world just like got stuck in the 1950s mentality. I don't know why. It's kind of stupid, and it actually kind of grinds my gears that it happens, because it's like, have the people who designed it, have they done real life sociological studies? Look at fashion from 1951 and look at fashion at 1959. That's only an 8-year difference, and it's radically different.
Well, it's the whole point. It's basically a lot of 1950s sci-fi was the future from a short-sighted 1950s perspective, and that's what they're trying to evoke. That's what Black Isle was trying to evoke with Fallout.
But they did say that where we're picking up in the story is like 600 years later. I'm like, 600 years? The nuclear war would have been myth by that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, it would have been the Pox eclipse.
Well,
I think that's. I think that's what the people in Mad Max called the nuclear war that brought the destruction. They called it the Pox eclipse.
I mean, the bubonic plague is closer to us than 600 years ago.
wait, Flowers Apocalypse?
It's from Mad Max. Some of the tribes, that's what they called the war that ended civilization. They call it the Pox eclipse because they misheard the word apocalypse.
Red Dwarf did something similar with the religion surrounding the deity Cloister.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The cat religion.
Yeah.
They had a religious war over whether the hats should be red or blue. That's terrible. They were supposed to be green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir,
suppose
I had a cat.
I mean,
Hypothetically, what would you do with Frankenstein?
supposedly, humans have fought over much stupider reasons.
Well, I mean, that's what they were parodying.
Yeah.
War.
I mean, if you think about it, Jews, Christians, and Muslims all over the world are fighting each other because they all believe in the same God. They just disagree as to what the best book written about him is.
Yep. Kind of like fandoms.
Yep.
Mm.
And oh God, what was it? It was the street lamps. You know, there was this post on X. It was all about, oh, the old sodium lamps look so much better than the LED lamps. And I posted, but it's actually about visibility, because under the sodium lamps, you know, if someone needed to describe a car or someone's clothing to the police, they couldn't tell the difference between blue or black. You know, green kind of looked tan and things like that. And that better visibility makes it so that everything is more visible. Cars can see things better. People can identify, you know, colors better. And oh man, the responses I got to it, you'd think I attacked their religion. I'm mad about going against their precious sodium lamps.
And that feels like where I am with arguing with people over AI.
Oh
yeah, that too.
Don't get me wrong. Yes, there's a lot of issues with AI, and I understand some of the hatred, but it's blown out of proportion. People act like the rednecks from South Park. You know, when you bring up AI and you ask why you hate it, their only reply is "They took her derg." Yeah.
And what is that one?
Where's this energy for the horse and buggy whip industry?
It was like a meme or something where, you know, someone was saying, well, I don't like this thing. It's like, okay, well, it's not all bad. You know, here's what you do about that. And the guy says, I don't want a solution. I just want to be mad.
You know, I actually triggered an anti-AI person because they brought up all the reasons why they hated AI, and literally the exact same thing people say about AI images was literally the exact same thing artists said about photography when it first became popular.
And yeah, there's a lot of slop out there. But, you know, to misquote Terry
slop
Pratchett,
is not an AI
everything is slop.
Yeah, because did people not remember the video game crash of 1983 or... For fuck's sake, Penny Dreadful slop or...
Yeah, it's
50s B horror slop.
Yeah.
Dime novels.
Jackson Pollock slop.
Yeah.
I do not know why that guy is so popular, you know.
I have no clue. I have an art degree and I have no clue what the appeal of Jackson Pollock is.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Jackson Pollock was the guy who he would literally just take paint and slap it on a campus, and then he would let dirt and mud collect on it. Then he'd go, "There, I made an artwork."
Well, and I mean, he'd be standing over drizzling paint over it, and he'd be smoking the whole time, and he'd just like drop his butts on the canvas, and so a lot of them have the cigarette butts just painted in.
Yep, and
that's all
It
it
actually
was just,
like I know people don't like PragerU because of this thing, but one really funny video I loved about PragerU was from one of its art was one of the art directors and all that, and he said his favorite thing he loves to do, one favorite prank he loves to pull on his students is that he shows them a picture, of like this complete mess, and he goes, here's a picture of a famous Jackson Pollock painting. Explain to me why it is good. And after they give 5-paragraph essays about how it's like, well, it's about the creativity and the beauty and the ugliness and all that he finally gives up. Okay, guys, I have one final confession though. That's not a Jackson Pollock painting. That's just an extreme close up of my studio apron.
This is why I prioritize.
There was a John Stossel where he got like 3-year-olds, I think, to draw a bunch of to paint a bunch of pictures and put them up in art galleries, and had all these experts going, "Oh yes, the artist is clearly very talented and knowledgeable and is doing this and is doing that and is expressing this," and they were just made by 3-year-olds.
This is why I don't take things like thematic analysis all that seriously.
Yeah.
Because 99.9% of the time, it is just readers and viewers projecting what they want it to mean and calling that deep.
Yeah.
Fun fact, that was according to one of the rare interviews Bob Ross did, that was his inspiration for becoming an art teacher himself, was because when he was in the Air Force, he took an art class, just as a little side hobby, and the thing that pissed him off so much was the teacher would be like, now, what exactly is a tree? Some say this is a tree. Some say this is how you paint a tree. Some people use this color for trees. And Bob Ross was thinking, dude, I just want to know how to paint a freaking tree.
Yeah, he ended up taking lessons from Bill Alexander. That's why their painting styles are so similar.
Of course, Bill Alexander threw a fit about it, though. But
yeah. that was not.
So the precursor to modern AI discourse.
Well, you know the funny irony too is that, don't get me wrong, Bill Alexander is a talented artist, but he did kind of have an ego on him. Like, for instance, he claimed that I invented the concept of wet on wet painting. Then someone actually pointed out, no, wet on wet painting goes back to 18th century Italy.
Yeah, it's called alla prima.
Yeah, alla prima. Yeah. I've even seen some people say, Bob Ross isn't a good artist. It's like, because all he did was he painted landscapes. Well, yeah, because the whole point of his show was to make paintings that, you and I could paint, and landscapes are the easiest thing for an amateur person to paint. With people, you need to learn about proportions and all that, and that does take time.
Yeah.
Well, that also assumes you're going you're shooting for realism.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you watch Bill Alexander's show, he had a much greater variety to things he painted than Bob Ross did. And he was better at explaining like how he was able to do, what it was and how he was able to work and put it all on the canvas. And you just don't learn that much by watching Bob Ross.
I mean, if I recall correctly, like, they even did a poll and they found out that most people who watched Bob Ross didn't even paint along to him. They just liked him because, he was calm, relaxed, and he was a soothing guy.
It was ASMR.
I just always need to vet my models to make sure they're comfortable with nudity, because I don't like getting paint on my clothes.
Yeah.
Most religious apologetics are the kind of arguments one hears in cartoon theory discussions, and they made the same format. The problem with AI is, like many things, the money printed to solve a government-made disaster. That's a lot of, people are blaming AI for the rise in, RAM prices and things like that. Yeah, that's a factor, but that's only part of it. A lot of it is just prices across the board are going up. But
Well,
I mean,
AI
we've
is the
had spells
easy-
like this before where RAM just really shot high for, a few months to a year and then came back down.
AI is the easy scapegoat
They're also
because people already hate it.
they're also blaming AI for Man-Bear Pig because we got to use water to cool down these servers, and you're wasting water when you download a picture with AI. Even though you literally
Yeah.
use more water flushing your toilet than the.
It was something like 5,000 or 50,000 or something like that. ChatGPT prompts the amount of water you're using you could save by making your shower 1 second shorter.
Yeah.
You're not using that much. The thing is, data centers are localized. So in that local area, they're using a lot of water. They're, using a lot from the grid, things like that. And that's an issue. When you look at globally, data centers are making everything so much more efficient.
Yeah.
We are using so much less energy and so much less water overall because of data centers.
So,
And I'm not.
Shane, let me get this right. You're saying that globally it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's funny thing about water. That's another thing that always laughs me too about the environmentalists is when they say you're wasting water and all that. It's like, I mean, look, if you're like in like a third world country where water's scarce, I can understand that, but they act like water is a super duper finite resource like oil, where it's like, not really.
Data centers can actually purify water.
Yeah.
And that triggers people who are like, no, it can't be. I can't have saline. It has to be pure. That's only the inner loop that has to be pure water. The outer loop, which cools the main loop, that does the cooling, that's cooled by an outer loop. That outer loop can be anything.
Yep.
And you can just, take water from a lake or a river or the ocean or whatever and use that to cool it. Well, you're evaporating it. You can just collect it and distill it. And there it's purified. You can do the same thing with nuclear power plants.
Yep. It seems like a lot of people who say, who say you're wasting water and that, and that if you're not careless, we're going to lose water. It's like, didn't you guys go to middle school science class and learn about the water cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's that old, there is that joke that some people say is like, at some point that water in your soda or your glass or your coffee, at one point that was someone else's pee.
A few molecules of the water in here passed through the bladder of William Shakespeare.
Yep.
I wonder what the probability is for the average person, like how often the average person drinks his own pee.
Probably not that much. I was actually looking at a thing on that.
Well, according to the internet, the reason we're so healthy we're so unhealthy is because we're not drinking our own pee. Yeah, that's the thing. Some people think urine cures everything. Yeah.
Listen, I enjoy
so
a good golden shower as much as the next
even
guy.
Abraham Lincoln. You could say that about Abraham Lincoln. I think that's about the limit.
It would, yeah. One thing it's one thing those people, those all natural people don't say and all that. They say it's like, oh, you just need to drink your urine because that's actually healthy and it recycles into your stuff. It's like, listen, if urine was so good for you, then why do we have a urinary tract system? If urine was good for you, your body would try to keep it in.
It's actually worse because you can dehydrate yourself. That I think it was Better Call Saul. When Mike, tells Saul since he doesn't have water, he has to drink his own pee. That would have made him more dehydrated. That would have killed him faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's so funny because like they'd say that, because there was like a survivalist. There was a guy like who's a survivalist expert, and he was doing a Q&A and all that, and one person asked him, it's like, wait a minute, if you run out of water, you have to drink your own pee? No, gross. Then no way. And the guy's like, yeah, you don't drink your pee. That's,
Well, survivalists do have natural ways of purifying it.
Yeah.
Like if
it's a sunny
day, if you like dig a hole, put a pod in it, and then cover it with like a sheet of plastic or something like that, then you pee in the ground around it, it'll evaporate, condense on the plastic and then drip down into the pot.
I think that's where the whole drinking your own urine to stay alive, came from, misconception came from, because they saw people like Survivor Man and Bear Grylls do it and said, oh, you can drink your pee, but what they ignored is that, they didn't drink their own urine directly. Like you said, they peed in like a cup or in like a hole, then put some plastic over it, waited for it to evaporate, and then they licked the condensation off of that, Not tasty, but in a life or death scenario where you're dying of thirst, it's better than nothing,
And I don't think you get all that much anyway.
Yeah, Well, yeah, it only should be done only as like a desperation,
Or recreationally.
If it's a humid environment, you don't even need to do that, because you can use dew, and what you can do is you can take out like, large leaves or anything like that, and just lay them out, at night, and then the condensation collects, in the leaf or in the plastic or whatever, and then you drink that. Anything with a big surface area that's kind of cool.
I'm watching this YouTube channel called Fire Department Chronicles, and it's like a series of shorts by like an actual firefighter / EMT from Florida, and he does like these one-man skits of actual calls he's been on, and one of them involves, and there's been a couple of them that involves pee, and one of them was, of course, the iconic jellyfish sting, and my favorite was it's like, my friend got stung by a jellyfish, so I peed on it, but that didn't work, so he peed on it, but that didn't work, so then he tried peeing on it, but that didn't work, and now we don't know what to do, and the fireman's like, water! You just soaked the jellyfish sting in hot water!
Yeah.
That reminds me of that old joke about the two hunters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we know.
What's one thing about that skit that a lot of people... Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, first thing you need to do, sir, is check to make sure he's dead. Okay, bang! Okay, he's dead. Now what do I do? Yeah,
apparently that joke translates into the most languages, basically.
Yeah.
Well, it was rated the world's funniest joke, even though no one place in the world rated it as their funniest joke. It was just the one that was the most universally appreciated.
Huh.
Because so many more are like it, or you have to be like in tune with the culture that it's from in order for it to be funny.
Yeah. Or another classic example is the tale of the two campers. You've heard that one?
Is that the one where they're running from the bear?
No. So two campers go out hiking. They're gonna spend a couple nights in the woods. So they set up a tent, go back and get up to sleep. But in the middle of the night, they wake up and the guy and one of the camper, he can't sleep, so he wakes up his buddy and he says, "Hey buddy, look up. What do you see?"
I've heard this one, but with Sherlock Holmes.
I've seen millions of stars, and what does that tell you? Well, if there's millions of stars, they have planets, and there's a high probability some of those planets have life, so we may not be the only people in the universe. And then the guy says, "No, you idiot! It means someone stole our tent."
Yeah, I heard it was Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Yes. So two hunters are looking for game, and they come across some tracks. One of them insists they're bear tracks. The other insists they're deer tracks. While they're arguing, the train hits them.
No, I've heard that one. Yeah. Oh yeah, or the classic, or the walking into a bar. Yep, an Englishman walks into a bar, a Scottish man walks into a bar, and then the Irishman realizes there's a bar and he ducks underneath it.
An Irishman walks out of a bar.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, here's one joke on that an Irish person told me one time. It's like, so an Irishman and a Scotsman decide to have a drink-off competition, so they try to play a game of shots. Unfortunately, they overindulge and they die, and they die. And when they wake up after dying, they find themselves in front of the pearly gates with Saint Peter. And Saint Peter says, "Before I take you into heaven, are there any questions you want to ask?" And the Scottishman goes, how's my mom and wife doing? Are they okay? It's like, and the St. Peter says, oh, they're fine. They've done their grieving and they've moved on and they're happy. The Scotsman goes, okay, thank you. The Irishman goes, so which one of us died first? St. Peter goes, the Scottishman died first. And the Irishman goes, ha, I told you I'd beat you. Yeah.
Oh God, The Intercept. Check out this headline. The Second Amendment was never meant for everyone. It's like, what?
Oh, who was it for then? Well, it was for the militia because it clearly says militia. Yeah, and people who say that don't know what a militia was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, well, was it the militia like the National Guard or the police? No, it was literally anyone that showed up with a gun, you know?
Oh, this is the Second Amendment was just for white people thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, it is true that slaves weren't protected by the Second Amendment, but people need to understand the historical context. That's because, look, at the time, slaves aren't seen as citizens, so therefore the Constitution didn't apply to them.
Ooh, a Waymo hit a child?
Trying to argue with people about the non-aggression principle is exhausting because they argue it must be false because it's able to be violated.
Yeah.
Like, murder is bad is a bad rule because it does not physically prevent murder.
Oh, I've seen gun control people say that. I've seen gun control people say that too. When you say how gun control doesn't work because criminals will always find a way to break the law, and it's only the law-abiding citizens they say, well, then by that logic, we should let murder go happen because people are still going to murder each other, but it's still against the law. To which I want to ask them, listen, if murder was legal, would you kill someone? And if their answer is yes, then you stay the hell away from me.
Yeah, I've killed all the people I intend to.
The child was struck by a Waymo autonomous vehicle while running across the road behind a double-parked SUV toward a nearby elementary school. Okay, so where was the parent or the teacher or whoever was in charge of the child? I mean, a kid runs out like that and you can't see them, human or robot, you might not always be able to stop for them.
Yeah, that's another thing I hate too, is when parents, don't get me wrong, I understand they're grieving and all that, but when they can't take responsibility, like a perfectly good example being the lawn darts, the guy who's oh, hang on, my mom's here.
And I have to let the dog out real quick.
Okay. NHTSA said the objective of its initial review was to assess whether Waymo drove cautiously enough, given how close it was to the school at drop-off time. This might be about that. They're having this with both Waymos and robo-taxis, like in a school zone, they're not slowing down enough. Because in school zones...
Sorry, I'm back. I'm back now, sorry.
Okay, because in school zones, the speed limit is conditional. It's only like certain hours of the day. But I mean, it's weird that this really happened at all because the school zones are there from the days where you had, schools that were basically against the road and you had the whole, kid chasing the ball into the road trope. But nowadays, schools aren't designed that way. They're like way off the edge of the road. The playground's on the other side. They're nowhere near the road. So what was the kid even doing?
And many playgrounds even have fences around them for that purpose, Yeah, but so I'm back now because my mom called me, but I'm back now. Going back to what I said earlier, kind of reminds me of, lawn darts, they got banned, and I remember seeing the story, that one guy, that one father was like, it was terrible. My son killed his sister because he threw a lawn dart thinking it was a kid's toy and he threw it at her, no offense, but I'm here just thinking, dude, why didn't you stop your son? Why didn't you hold her back and say, son, don't throw things at your sister?
And here I'm just thinking of Megan Garcia v. Character Technologies Inc.
The vehicle reduced speed to 6 miles an hour before contact was made. To put this into perspective, our peer-reviewed model shows that a fully attentive human driver in the same situation would have made contact with a pedestrian at approximately 14 miles per hour. So if it had been a human, it would have been a lot worse. But that's the thing, it doesn't matter how much safer than humans they are. The least little thing that happens, everyone's going to hit the ceiling about it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like the song "Blame Canada." Canada said, "We got to find something to blame, or else we're going to have to start blaming ourselves, and we can't do that, can we?"
We must blame them
It's
and cause a
especially
fuss
bad.
before somebody thinks of blaming us.
Yep.
It gets especially bad when people have a specific chip on their shoulders about one particular person. So anything associated with that person will be treated as bad by default.
It's not saying anything about how injured the child was.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, going back, because the whole plot of South Park: Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, it's basically just an extension. It's basically just an extension of the season 1 episode Death, where the parents get outraged over Terrence and Philip. It actually kind of reminds me with swearing too. Like so many people get bad about swearing and they blame it. It's like, it's like my son, saw that, overheard it on a show and now he won't stop being a potty mouth. And I'm just thinking, well, did you teach your son about the context of swear words and not to use them, in certain scenarios?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's kind of like George Carlin said, there's some list somewhere that they never show you. And the only way you can find out what's on the list is trial and error.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. This happened in an episode of Rugrats.
Whack. Oh shit!
This
whack.
happens.
Hey, fuck! What the hell? Whack!
Yeah,
that happened in an episode of Rugrats where Angelica accidentally learns a swear word.
Oh yeah, and she says it, and the reason why she keeps saying it is because rather than explain to her that word is mean, it's wrong, and it's very inappropriate to use in public, they just scream and punish her, and she's like, "What did I do?"
And like they never clarify to her which word it is.
Yeah. Although I have heard from some fans that the theory is that the word she heard in that episode was shit. Cause she thinks we're all little, and most people think it's probably she thinks we're all little shits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and actually, believe it or not, there actually are some childcare experts that do say that if your child, says a very inappropriate word or swearing, yes, there should be some degree of discipline, but don't freak out. Don't throw them in the corner and say, don't you dare say that word ever again. You got to explain to them, why that word's not appropriate to be using and why they shouldn't be saying it,
As Mr. No says, did the governors cooperate with Obama and offer local support, unlike the many states with Trump? Absolutely, and that's why ICE didn't have to go around doing what it was doing, because the states were just finding them, arresting them, and turning them over to ICE.
Yep.
But with Trump, all of a sudden, it's different.
Yep, it's different because Trump's evil, And actually, many people are pointing out, that's kind of the whole point of Trump derangement syndrome. It's not just that, you're obsessed with Trump. It's like, because, yeah, Trump has done some really bad stuff, but really, he's acting no differently than any other previous presidents have acted. But a lot of people are thinking, well, it's worse this time,
It's like that.
He's such a big right-winger. No, he's a 60s Kennedy Democrat.
It's like that Ryan Long sketch when Trump defines you with an always Trumper and a never Trumper as roommates.
I mean, I've actually pissed off some people saying this, but I've actually pointed out that a lot of the stuff that's happening with Trump is literally not a whole lot different than what happened with Reagan. Going back to the whole Greenland thing, there were some people that were afraid, saying it's like, oh, Trump, the whole thing with Greenland is going to destroy the NATO alliance. Well, you know what? You know who else almost destroyed the NATO alliance? Reagan. His policy towards Nicaragua, Grenada, and all that, it pissed off a lot of European nations. And here we are, nothing changed,
And some more from Zen over on Rumble. Speaking of water, you have the government to blame for the Middle Eastern water crisis. Tragedy of the Commons Islam edition. Processed food is hated for the wrong reasons. Exactly. If you thought The Intercept was bad on guns, try Consortium News. They're even worse. John Ross once said the downside to gun control is genocide. I think the term Republican in name only needs to die. Yeah, that kind of implies that there's some principle or at least definition to Republican other than I registered as Republican.
Yeah. You want to know something too? And I've had this conversation with people. Like, so many people think that Republicans are hypocrites, because they are always changing their stance. But when you really think about it, Republicans aren't necessarily hypocritical. The thing that people forget to realize is that at their core, the Republicans are a populist party, meaning they're good, meaning their policy is going to be based on what people want, or at least what they think the people want, That's the reason why, one decade they'll be all for this one, policy, but then in the next decade they'll be against it or for a different policy. It's not because they're hypocrites. It's because, in that decade, that particular policy was popular and what people wanted, but then there was a change of heart and people wanted this. So they're like, okay, we got to change. Whereas the Democrats at their core are a progressive party,
So Zen says the GOP owed its existence to the Whigs, Know Nothings, War Party, Prohibition, and Free Soil parties. And if there's one thing George Carlin never learned, socialism just makes anti-intellectualism worse. Not only that, he had a few intellectual blind spots, one of which was economics. Yeah, none of them really understand economics.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, that's 2 hours. So anyone have any last minute parting shots before we close off?
No.
Glad I could make it for at least a little bit. Thanks for hosting.
seeing you
Yeah,
again,
good to talk
Daniel.
to you again.
I just had to geek out about Amelia.
We
Oh,
thought
that's cool,
we thought
yeah.
you were dead.
Yeah, post all of that to one of the Discord so we can see it and the other things you were mentioning.
I know, Chris, you already posted some of it in fave quotes.
Yeah, well, that was more of a news article, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to see the actual stuff. But for now, we have to close it off. So thank y'all for joining me. Thanks to everyone who chatted. And thank you all for watching. Until